This week we're talking about cybersecurity, or the thing you hope your bank has figured out and the NSA has yet to ruin. Now, I live on the internet, and I presume that you spend too much time there as well. Setting aside how healthy that may or may not be, it's worth keeping in mind given the current climate of cybersecurity. In the wake of the Snowden revelations and a terrifying number of debilitating hacks of private corporations, cybersecurity has raised its profile from Silicon Valley SAW to national priority. Now, Congress, to be clear, is trying to work on the matter. Its efforts to pass CISA, or the Cybersecurity Information Sharing Act, are controversial, but do represent material effort to move the ball forward. Now, some security experts, privacy advocates, and tech companies oppose the bill due to concerns relating to consumer rights. At the same time, no one discounts the need for robust cybersecurity at the national, corporate, and personal levels. The question is, how do we get there in one piece without selling our soul? The panopticon is not an option, nor is constant NSA surveillance, but we repeat ourselves. Instead, it's a fair question to ask, how can we balance an increasingly burdensome threat landscape with our desire to maintain material and functional privacy? To help us understand all of that and more, we have Craig Hinkley right here in the studio.
Earlier this year, Craig Hinkley joined WhiteHat Security as CEO, bringing more than 20 years of executive leadership to help broaden visibility in the application security space. Previously, Hinkley worked at LodgeLogic, HP, Cisco, and Bank of America. Applying his wide range of experience, Hinkley drives a customer-centric focus internally, aiming to improve security web-wide.
Please welcome to the program Craig Hinkley. Craig, my friend.
Alex, great to be here,
You have
mate.
the best accent of any guest so far, I have to say. It's literally top-notch. You're from New Zealand, right? Or no, you're Welsh? What is it?
Just don't call me English.
Done. Sold.
Australian. I'll take New Zealander, but Australian
You're
preferably.
one poison spider away from being full Australian.
Exactly.
Now, on the topic at hand, I've noticed in the last 18 to 24 months a massive surge in coverage of corporate breaches, corporate hacks, and so forth. And I'm very curious, is that due to there being more hacks going on in total, or are we just paying more attention to a problem that's been around for the last 10, 12 years?
So I think what's happening here is twofold. There are more attacks happening,
Okay.
But secondly, what's happening is the data that's been extracted. So now there's a lot more, exposure, a lot more focus coming from boards and CEOs down to companies around the data that's being stolen as a result.
Is the data being stolen more important than it was before? Or is it more impactful to consumers? Why do they care more now than they did, say, 5 years ago?
I think it's just the fact that e-commerce, the internet, the massive transition from traditional
brick and mortar to
digitalization. So
Yeah.
now if you steal the digital asset, there's a lot more value can be extracted.
So essentially, as e-commerce has become a global standard, the risks of hacks have just grown by that fact alone.
Absolutely.
So are these usually state-sponsored attacks? Is this corporate espionage? Or is it individual people out there or small groups that are trying to just cause mayhem? Like, who's the real bad actor here most of the time?
I wish it was simply one. It's actually all of those. It is state-sponsored. It is terrorism. It is organized crime.
Well, now I'm just sad. Like, that's not the answer I wanted at all. I wanted one.
No, it's not.
You
I
gave me
mean,
four.
the most recent one in the UK, the Talk.
Yes.
That just happened like the last 72 hours.
Yes.
They arrested a 15-year-old kid. Okay, so how do
I
you
feel
now
so
police
secure
15?
all of a sudden. Yeah,
Exactly.
15-year-olds should be not. I can't make that joke on this show, but they should do other things and not hacking. But how can you pull it off? If you're 15, how do you hack a corporation that large and do that much damage with essentially no budget, no friends, and just an internet connection?
Well, so WhiteHat, we every year produce a report. It's our websites and statistics around vulnerabilities. That shows that over 50% of healthcare and retail sites are what we call permanently vulnerable.
Essentially, they're never safe. They never have been safe, and you can just walk in there and just swipe stuff.
Well, it's not you can walk in and swipe it. They've got a vulnerability out there. Now, what the 15-year-old has to do, as well as the state-sponsored, as well as the terrorists, is find that hole, exploit it, extract the data of value. But there's tools out there nowadays, so it's not as though it's this dark art and magic. You can go out there and you could go search on Google, find me certain hacking tools, and
we used to have a phrase for it. They were called script kiddies back in the day, and they would use these off-the-shelf tools to hack websites and so forth. But I thought we left that behind. I thought we had raised the standard of cybersecurity around the web and so forth to the point which that was no longer possible. Are you saying that we're still that massively vulnerable today across a wide number of areas?
Our statistics show that's still the case.
That's really sad.
Well, It's sad, but at the end of the day, what you have to understand, the web is, I call it an install-based problem. So it's not a greenfield. So it's not like we're kind of hitting the reset button on the web and we can build it secure.
Right, you can't just start over again.
Exactly. Okay. So the challenge is you've got so much digital assets out there in the forms of websites and web applications. The challenge is, how do I secure what I've already got out there? And then how do I actually develop more secure web applications moving forward? And that's the challenge.
So to not put too much pressure on you as a corporation, but why do so many companies outsource cybersecurity and the overall issue of keeping their stuff secure to third-party corporations? Why don't they make that their own core competency internal to their larger corporate structure? Because I feel like it's not a small issue. It's not vestigial. It's factual and material and now.
It is absolutely a core focus area of companies moving forward.
Okay.
Core competency, you go to a bank and say your core competency is cybersecurity, not so much healthcare, not so much. But the challenge is, mate, the biggest thing, and WhiteHat, we saw this years ago when we invested in building our threat research center, which is our ethical hacking division. You cannot get enough resources. The cybersecurity industry is in a talent deficit. So still, I mean, if you're a kid who's graduating high school today, go get a computer science degree and get into cybersecurity. If you're graduating today, next semester, next year, get into cybersecurity because it is absolutely understaffed. There is a deficit of talent. This is going to be the growth industry the way networking was back in the late 90s.
Back when Cisco still mattered, yeah.
Exactly.
So there's been a lot of talk in the American Congress right now about CISA, which is a bill about cybersecurity that's going to be voted on either today or tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious, do you think the American Congress has the internal expertise it needs to craft legislation that could actually help corporations functionally defend themselves, or are those asshats in Congress so far lost they could never possibly pull off something that complex?
So, I'm a permanent resident of the US. I don't want to get deported. So I want to be careful.
It's a safe space.
It's a safe space.
No one watches the show.
No one will see this. Exactly.
Totally
Exactly. As long as the Congress are using the experts within the industry and as well within their own agencies, the US does have a very sophisticated cyber intelligence force at its disposal.
Yes.
So as long as they're drawing upon that knowledge base to help craft the legislation, then we have a chance of it being somewhat reasonable, logical, sensible, and advancing the topic of cybersecurity forward for companies.
All right, last question then. In 5 years, is the average American corporation more secure or less secure?
In 5 years from now?
5 years from now.
Less secure.
That's sad. Craig, thanks for coming in.
Thanks, mate.
Bullish airs every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific, and you can find it here on TechCrunch.com.